Gas price drops in Indiana because the state is waiving the use tax and excise tax. Or to think about it more practically, the state is giving money to oil companies. Like, in a practical sense, less money is flowing into the coffers of the state of Indiana, and more money is flowing into the coffers of fucking Exxon or whatever. So government has less money, corporation has more money. Great. Essentially a subsidy. It'll go up eventually. We haven't seen any big gas price bumps. Energy Secretary floats pause on federal gas tax. Fuck me. Yeah, it's not even going to do that much. Said on Sunday, the Trump admin to be open to pausing the federal gas tax, give Americans relief at the pump. We're legitimately like not going to be able to repair roads in the future. It's not just bridges. Like, in order to drive anywhere, you're going to have to like people are going to when driving across long highways, like between LA and Las Vegas or whatever, they're going to drive off-road because the asphalt and concrete have cracked and degraded and potholed into an unusable rocky mess, and it's actually better to drive on the dirt next to the road. I'm not even fucking joking. Depending on how long the possible gas tax holiday would last, forever, I imagine, it could have a substantial impact on the Highway Trust Fund, which mainly relies on the tax to fund road construction repairs across the country. Mr. Trump has promised high gas prices will be short-term, but last month Mr. Wright said gas prices could remain elevated for months. Yerp, yerp, yerp. Yes, sir. My wife is from Colombia, and when we go there, we go 35 miles per hour because the roads are shit. Will happen here. Yep. That's all falling apart. But I can't even talk about it because then people in chat will accuse me of dooming. It's fucked up.
And joining me now is Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Secretary Wright, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me, and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here on Mother's Day. A lot to discuss. I do want to start on these negotiations between the United States and Iran. President Trump saying that the United States was anticipating a response from Iran to its...
JP Morgan has said we'll hit the operational floor by September. I need to go back in time and find the person who first popularized the idea that the market prices in future variables and throttle them. Who the fuck? Who said that? Who the fuck invented the idea that the market prices things rationally and as prices in like future market price fluctuations? Who the fuck said that? The market has never been invested more in risky stocks. Defensive stocks have never been this disliked. Yeah, it's a sign of the shift from corporatism to oligarchy, where it used to be that the stock market was built to provide reliable year-over-year sensible returns of 3 to 5% for everyone with enough money to be invested into it. Like, if you were in the top like decile economically in America, you could just put your money in a market account and just like watch that shit go up. But now you need to be in like the top 0.01% so you can get in on the Signal group chat insider info trade where you coordinate your trades with like info drops from Politico or whatever, or Axios, so that you get to like make 400% year over year, you know? World oil inventories are falling at a record pace. I feel like the prevailing majority market philosophy now is don't be the bag holder. It's all very openly about gambling, yeah. So by June, we hit operational stress level. By September, we reached the operational floor, minimum level required to keep pipelines functioning, refineries operating. Cool, cool, cool. It's crazy we're not rationing oil right now. Other countries are. The reason we're not is because it would get in the way of the oil companies' profits. If we started rationing, that means we lower demand, which means that Exxon wouldn't make as much money.
Latest proposal. Has Iran, in fact, responded to the United States?
I don't think we've heard a clear resolution from Iran yet. Given the state of the government in Iran, things just move slowly. Communications are difficult. There are multiple factions. This is a regime under serious stress.
Would the United States ever agree to a deal with Iran that does not address its nuclear program, even if it's a short-term deal?
Oh, I mean, I don't know about interim deals or whatever, but we know where the end point is going to be. The end point is going to be free...
Volume? Oh, sorry. Yeah. My partner was playing Cuphead on my computer, and I think that they did the forbidden thing. They altered the volume directly on my speakers rather than through the computer itself. So all my volume settings are fucked up because I didn't realize it, so I changed the volume on everything else.
Flow of traffic through the international waters that are the Straits of Hormuz. and an end to the Iranian nuclear program. That's where we're going to end. The pathway from here to there, we're going to find out.
Does that sound good?
But that's the end point.
So it's possible an interim deal might not address all of the concerns regarding Iran's nuclear program.
Certainly that's got to be possible.
Well, I guess, and just to clarify in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, what is the administration's top priority? Dealing with Iran's nuclear program or reopening the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, the top priority is ending Iran's nuclear program. The world simply cannot have a nuclear-armed Iran. They've got nearly 1,000 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. You know, this is close to weapons-grade uranium. There's no commercial or peaceful use of nuclear weapons. They always lie and say they're doing this for their nuclear power industry. Just total nonsense. They have been, you know, on a dash to build a bomb, and they have enriched material, almost fully enriched, to make 10 nuclear bombs. We cannot have that for the world. We cannot have that in the Middle East. We cannot have that in the United States of America.
I do want to talk about the big issue for Americans, gas prices, of course. You just heard me discuss how high they went this week. Here's what you said in this program in March about gas prices. Take a look. Are you confident that gas will be back under $3 a gallon by the busy summer travel season, Mr. Secretary?
There's a very good chance that'll be true. There's no guarantees in war. The time frame's still not entirely clear, but I think that's certainly a goal of the administration and very possible.
Do you think it's still very possible that gas prices will dip below $3 a gallon in time for summer, which is about 6 weeks?
I can't.
Are we... Lady, you have to move the goalposts a little bit. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you still think it's possible to hit the below $3 mark before summer happens tomorrow? Before summer starts tomorrow?
Can't make any predictions about, oil prices or gasoline prices. The military part of the conflict took about what we expected. I think the president was guiding 4 to 6 weeks, took 5.5 weeks. After the main military operations have ceased, now we're in a negotiating period. We're using economic leverage against Iran, and this regime is trying to cling on to their nuclear program. So obviously this part of the conflict has gone a little longer.
President Trump hasn't ruled out still using a military option. Are you saying military options?
Longer video of Modi saying India needs to operate like they did during COVID. Yeah, like it's genuinely the countries that react the most severely to this very real oil crisis will be the ones that are the least financialized, because the most financialized countries will have the will be run by people who stand to gain the most from the most logistically irresponsible way of managing the crisis. Like a poorer country will be like, we need oil to live, therefore we must ration. Whereas a wealthier country will be like, we can actually make more money for like the top 10 people in the economy if we just like ignore reality and continue to buy up shorts to push down speculative oil prices for as long as possible so we can maximize how much money we make from the sales,
Have ceased, have officially come to an end?
No, again, we're not going to take any options off the table going forward. But as far as our goals to destroy their industrial capability to build missiles, to build missile launchers, to build drones, to completely degrade their air defense system, to sink their Navy and their Air Force, all of that went well, and that was a critical part of this mission.
Just to go back to this central question, though, do you anticipate gas prices will drop below $3 a gallon this year?
I can't make predictions about that. I can say that when we start to get free flow of traffic through the Straits of Hormuz, energy prices will come down. And by ending Iran's ability to get a nuclear weapon, they are the biggest threat in the world to the flow of global energy. They've killed more American soldiers over the last 2 decades.
It was so cool when during her presidential campaign, Kamala Harris said this for no reason.
Than any other power. They're the giant force of destabilization. They're the largest sponsor of terrorism around the planet. So ending Iran's nuclear program, that is massively positive for the flow of energy, meaning more energy will flow in the future, meaning lower energy prices for Americans and the rest of the world. Long term, this is a great move. Short term, it's causing some discomfort.
So you're saying that ultimately gas prices will start to come down once the strait is reopened. Here's what analysts are saying about how high gas prices could ultimately go. U.S. gasoline prices have a legitimate chance of rising to $5 a gallon as refiners prioritize jet fuel production at the expense of other products, according to analysts at JP Morgan.
One of the reasons why it's good to listen to JP Morgan and in general read the Financial Times is because of this. JP Morgan and other and other like similar I'm sorry, did you describe JP Morgan as a brokerage? Multinational banking. Yeah, they do brokering. I don't know. Yeah, it's like I know, but I didn't. They do brokeraging though, right? Money stuff. Well, yeah, money stuff, I guess. Anyway, these institutions primarily serve the interests of people who benefited from the corporatist arrangement of the stock market. That is to say, like, JP Morgan functioned best when the point of the stock market was like that consistent 3 to 5% year-over-year annual return. You know what I mean? They aren't as fond of the modern, like, oligarchs raping the market to death every day. You know, they aren't fond of like the American century of infinite money molestation. So JP Morgan and others will get like probably be pretty good sources of information on this increasing plague of financialization just because they serve the older model, you know? No, JP Morgan absolutely hates the finance bro trend. Yeah, for sure, 100%. JP Morgan's Epstein affiliated? Yes, and Epstein was friends with a lot of those bigwigs during the corporatist days, you know? He was also friends with a lot of the future oligarchs, which kind of shows how good he was at his job, which was, you know, making friends with powerful people.
Morgan Chase, should Americans be prepared for the possibility of paying $5 a gallon for gas?
Look, again, I can't predict the price of energy in the short term or even the medium term, but what we're doing...
Or even the long term. In fact, I'm not willing to make any comment on it ever again. Please shut up.
...is ending a 47-year conflict. Iran has fought death to the United States for 47 years, death to Israel. And as we saw when the conflict broke out, they attacked all of their neighbors in the Middle East that had no involvement in the conflict whatsoever. If you have a hostile, unstable power like that, you simply cannot allow them to have nuclear weapons. That was a consensus opinion all my adult life. I'm shocked to see Democrats come out of the woodwork now, somehow not worried about Iran getting nuclear weapons.
I know you're saying you can't predict how high gas prices will go, but I don't hear you ruling out the possibility that they could, in fact, go to $5 a gallon.
Well, I'm just avoiding price predictions. But I will say the United States is in a tremendous position. We're by far the world's largest producer of oil. We're by far the world's largest producer of natural gas. There's been no rise in the price of natural gas. That's the largest primary energy source for the United States.
Well, our natural gas. Well, for one, he's lying again. We're talking about gas prices, not natural gas prices. We don't get our natural gas from the Middle East. We produce it domestically. We produce quite a bit of it, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about grid prices. We're not talking about energy prices. We're talking about the cost of gasoline, like for cars, which is where a significant amount of our petroleum goes.
For home heating, that's for electricity. Gasoline, diesel prices are up, and they will remain up while this conflict's in place, and then they will come back down. And ultimately, they'll come back down lower than they were before.
You're saying they're going to come back down. The head of the International Energy Agency says more than 80 Persian Gulf energy facilities have been damaged, about a third of them severely, and it could take up to 2 years to fully restore production. Why should Americans believe that prices will fall quickly when experts say it could take up to 2 years even once this war ends?
Remember, up to 2 years, and the JP Morgan estimate on how long before we reach that critical floor is September of this year. Just keep that in mind. This is 4 months away. Operational floor level, assuming no change in the production or consumption of oil. And there will be changes, certainly to the consumption. But like, you know.
Bring all of those facilities back on. That's one region of the world. Oil production.
So we have 4 months to end the war? No, it's already too late. Even if we end the war, it'll take years to get production up to the point that it needs to get to. It's already too late.
Venezuela today is growing rapidly. Venezuela's neighbor Guyana has rapid oil production growth, rapid growth in Brazil. We're bringing on new oil in the Gulf of America and in Alaska in the United States. There's an incredibly bright outlook for growing global energy production, which allows the economy to grow and prices to remain low.
Let's talk about this debate over the gas tax. States like Georgia, Indiana, Utah have suspended their gas taxes. And there's a bill in Congress, actually, that would temporarily suspend the federal gas tax, which is 18 cents a gallon currently. Would you support suspending the federal gas tax to give families...
Yeah, we could undo as much as 1 week's worth of an increase in the price of gasoline.
...relief right now?
Yeah, all measures that can be taken to lower the price at the pump and lower the prices for Americans, this administration is in support of. We are constantly looking for different ideas. We've taken a number of actions, releasing oil from our strategic petroleum reserves, getting 30 other nations to do that in coordination with us. We revised the EPA regulations on summer gasoline blend to make it easier for American refineries to produce more gasoline. We've been in contact with all American refiners, asking them to do shorter maintenance work this spring so they can keep pumping out more products.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, that's what we need.
So we are working every day to offset this rise in prices because of a critical conflict in Iran, to drive prices down, and we're open to all such ideas.
This is significant what you're saying. You're saying that President Trump would be open to suspending the federal gas tax?
We're open to all ideas. Everything has trade-offs, all ideas to lower prices for American consumers and American businesses.
All right, let me ask you about what we've been discussing at the top, the Strait of Hormuz. Before the war, more than 100 ships transited the strait every single day. This week, just 7 ships transited the Strait of Hormuz.
I know you've heard about the fertilizer situation, but basically there's nothing we can do to solve the issues. Yeah, fuck. I saw an article on Twitter. I think, was it the Philippines? One of the countries that had its planting season, like, first after the Iran war broke out, and just like massive shortages in production, like whole fields laying fallow because they can't afford the gasoline. Or sorry, not gasoline, the fertilizer. I mean, petroleum derivative. Let me see if I can't find that. If I search planting season on Twitter, I think that might get me what I'm looking for. Did they not have fertilizer reserves? No, I don't even know how long you can store that. I mean, remember what happened to Beirut? I don't think you want to do that. But also, like, okay, it's Thailand. One of the first agricultural countries to enter a planting season since the Iran war. Farmers are leaving huge tracts of land barren because they can't afford to plant. As the war stretches deep into the crop calendar, farmers from more countries will be forced to make similar choices. Skip or reduce planting, cut fertilizer use, which will lower yield. Significant yield loss across many countries. Very close to what happened in COVID-19. Governments have tried to calm markets by asserting they have reserves. Thailand's Commerce Ministry has said they have 343,000 tons of fewer fertilizer. There you go. Sufficient to support the upcoming planting season. Driving through the vast flatlands surrounding Thailand's Chao Phraya River Basin, however, reveals a different picture. Fertilizer shops, large and small, were completely out of urea and said they had been for weeks. Distributors are offering only Russian compounds farmers are wary to use. Shop owners said, Since Tira Satayaporn, 62, who runs a fertilizer wholesale business, sent a truck to a marketplace frequented by large dealers, tried to procure urea, but after waiting 4 days, the truck returned empty. Whew. Neat.
Who is in control of the Strait of Hormuz right now, Mr. Secretary?
Well, the United States has a blockade. We are not allowing any ships to come out from Iranian ports or to go into Iranian ports. Iran, after decades of spending a large percent of their entire economy building a giant weapons arsenal, all to shield their nuclear program, so ultimately they would be untouchable. They have an ability to cause trouble in the
It was so cool when, for no reason, Kamala Harris said this during her presidential campaign.
Of Hormuz, and they are doing it.
Remember, the fear-mongering about Iran, a country that poses literally no threat to the United States, is and always has been a vehicle for justifying military aggression against them. There's literally no other reason to do it. Some version of this was always going to happen. I don't give a fuck if the people in my subreddit get mad at me for saying it. Some version of this was always going to happen.
U.S. in control of the Strait of Hormuz?
We are controlling no flow of Iranian ships. We have escorted out several American ships. And if need be, if we don't get to a deal with Iran, we will use military force to open the strait to everyone. Today, traffic through the Straits of Hormuz is challenged.
Why didn't the U.S. secure the Strait of Hormuz when the war first began in February?
Bro, just secure it. Bro, just secure. Just secure a tract of hundreds of miles of Gulf coastline against the bombardments from drones and missiles from a massive country like directly next to it. Bro, just secure. Bro, just set up the world's most sophisticated missile and drone defense system overnight across hundreds of miles to protect the multi-billion-dollar, literally explosive targets on the other side of the Gulf. Bro.
It's about focus. It's about focus. We want to do as quickly as possible, take away Iran's military capabilities to defend their airspace and to destroy their industrial complex. We challenged the long-term things first. We needed to degrade their infrastructure, to project terror around the Middle East, to threaten oil supplies in the long run. And we'll deal with this in the middle.
Paris would not have joined Israel in this war. Literally, what the fuck is the point of pretending that Iran is America's greatest enemy with that, unless you're trying to gear up for more interventionism in the Middle East? I actually don't like. She was the VP for 4 years while Biden did the bidding of his Israeli masters for the entire post-October. Literally, just every day, lie after lie. Why would, like, what is the purpose of Kamala Harris saying that Iran is our greatest foreign threat if you're not trying to in some way build up support for some kind of action against Iran? Because there's not really a version of attacking Iran that wouldn't have potentially led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, right? Like, maybe it wouldn't have played out exactly the same way, but I don't understand why Kamala Harris would lie like that unless that was the goal.
The conflict, the thing was about getting the war aims done. Now, as we move back out the other side, is to establish the free flow of commerce.
Let me ask you this. This week, the president announced Project Freedom, as you know, an operation to escort ships trapped in the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. NBC News reported this week that he canceled the operation just 36 hours later over Saudi Arabia's concerns that the plan would trigger.
She said she would cut Israeli aid if they continued the genocide in Gaza. Did she? Because my only memory of that subject was Harris's campaign saying the exact opposite. That it was rumored that she might be willing to cut aid, but then her campaign stepped forward and said, no, don't worry. She supports unrestricted aid no matter what. So, maybe you're referring to like a different news cycle, but I remember specifically her campaign clarifying that no matter what, the support would continue to come. Which, like, you know, oof.
Potentially catastrophic attacks from Iran. Did the U.S. back away from Project Freedom because of risks of further military action?
The U.S. backed away or just suspended briefly Project Freedom because of Iran's concerns. Iran has one card. They can cause trouble in the Straits of Hormuz. They are keen to get a negotiated deal. If we open that militarily without Iran, they have no cards left. They can cause trouble in the meantime.
We've already abandoned this project. At the time this interview was conducted, this project had already fallen through. It literally, it's not even, it's already done. When he answered with this, it was already done.
They said, wait, let's talk. Let's get a deal. We're going to open this more quickly in a simpler fashion. And we're given that chance to have a negotiated settlement, which is the best end here.
All right. Well, we will continue to track whether that negotiated settlement happens. Thank you so much, Secretary Wright. We really appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Kristen. Great to be with you.
Cool.
Great to have you here. Well,
New satellite images show a suspected oil spill near Iran's main oil hub of Karg Island. It is the largest spill captured since the start of the war and the disruption of global oil prices. Well, oil prices today put West Texas.
It's not over. Netanyahu wants us to go in and get the uranium. Fuck, I wish I could watch 60 Minutes on stream.
Is the war with Iran over? And if it isn't, who will decide when it is?
I think it accomplished a great deal, but it's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium that has
Don't
to be taken
copyright me.
out
Don't
of,
copyright me. Don't
Iran.
copyright me.
There's still enrichment sites that have to be dismantled. There's still proxies that Iran supports. There are ballistic missiles that they still want to produce. Now, we've degraded a lot of it, but all of that is still there, and there's work to be done.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
You go in and you take it out.
With what? Special forces from Israel, special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but what President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there. And I think it can be done physically. That's not the problem. If you have an agreement and you go.
Looks like we're not done, boys. Well, anyway.
Texas crude at $94.68 a barrel, and AAA says the average price for a gallon of regular gas today is $4.53.
We are embroiled in multiple armed conflicts.
Israel's like the guy in the audience, and every time America, you know, in the ring looks like he's about to fall, Israel's screaming, "He didn't hear no bell."
Including an illegal war in Iran that has already
get
cost
back
the
out
lives
there.
of thousands of civilians, 13 service members, and hundreds of our proud men and women in service who've been severely injured. And oil and gas prices are sky high right now.
MS Now reporter Laura Hayfleet joins me from El Segundo, California. That's where average gas prices are closer to $6.15 per gallon of regular. Yikes. By the way, I was in LA earlier this week. I filled up my son's car. Ouch. I mean, it was a lot. So what are you hearing about how global disruption is affecting the U.S., Laura?
Alex, that's quite the gift from a good mom, because that's an expensive gas price for sure. He must be a happy son. But look, I got to go inside of Chevron's oil refinery in El Segundo, California. They're refining 12 million gallons of oil per day. And I got to learn for myself from the source why it is so difficult for California especially.
This is more California specific. I don't really. They have their own issues. $6 is cheap. We've been paying that for ages here in the EU. We really gotta like ban you guys from using the internet over here in America. The reason why it's a big deal over here is because we use our cars much more than you do. Like the trucking industry and conventional driving about, like we need to. It is because we built our cities badly. It is because of bad infrastructure. But there's a reason why $6 a gallon is a hell of a lot worse than like 150 a liter. What's the population of the EU? Population EU. 450 million people or so. A good way to think about it is that even though the EU in total has about 100 million more people than the United States consumes more than double the EU's oil. So if you imagine a society that's built to use that much, like you have to think we are so much more reliant on it. Rapidly shrinking stockpiles means the risk of even more extreme price spikes and shortages is getting ever closer, leaving governments and industries with fewer options to cushion the impact of the loss more than 1 billion barrels of supply 2 months in near closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Who dilly? Do Trump supporters value racism so much they'll suffer anything to justify it? Yeah. A lot of them don't even know it. Like, a lot of them don't even realize that all of their politics are downstream of racial and xenophobic animus. But yeah. They will accept basically any amount of personal suffering if the argument is framed to them in those terms. The system requires a minimum level of oil, which means the operational minimum is reached long before inventories actually hit zero. And we're getting there. What's the solution to bad city design in America? Not just Bikes pointed this out and got a bunch of Americans really mad at him, but he said that, like, you will never see a walkable America in your lifetime, which is true. Right now, America is much closer to actually collapsing than it is to urbanizing. The amount of money and the amount of capital interest there is invested in having America be poorly designed is so overwhelming that the idea of fixing that on any kind of systematic level is almost unthinkable. It is genuinely easier to imagine America collapsing than it is America urbanizing. The fastest way to get an urbanized America would be a nuclear war that would flatten most of it, and then we'd have to build in the remnants with fewer materials and less money. That would be like the most likely shortcut. Worth trying, though? Yeah, sure, worth trying. JP Morgan's Caneva warns inventories in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development could reach operational stress levels early next month if the strait doesn't reopen, and then operational minimum floors by September. That's the point when the world hits the bare minimum amount of oil needed for pipelines, storage tanks, and export terminals to function properly. The U.S., which has become the supplier of last resort to the world, has already drawn... Oh, I'm sure that's making our oil companies a lot of money. Has already drawn down domestic inventories of crude and fuels to below historic averages as exports surge. U.S. crude stocks, including the nation's Strategic Petroleum Reserve, have dropped for the last 4 straight weeks, according to government data. What's really concerning for Eurids as well, the deficit of jet fuel. Yep. You guys are already basically out. You're going to get our jet fuel. Why do they need a minimum amount? I mean, think about it. Like... you can't have nothing in reserve because oil doesn't move instantly all over the world. It's like water, right? Like even if the water cycle at all times is producing a certain amount of fresh water to be, you know, drank all over the place, you need it in reserves, filling pipes. You need it like physically already in place. If you're dying of dehydration, the knowledge that it's raining somewhere in a different state doesn't stop you from dying. Isn't our jet fuel garbage too? Well, it's worse than the EU's. Yet another way we subsidize our air industry. Such a West Coaster take here in New Jersey. We're actually pretty close to hitting European levels of urbanization. That's really funny. I assume that's a joke. Plus, even ignoring that New Jersey has a very robust intercity bus network. New Jersey. That's what we're going with? Sure, dog. Yeah. New Jersey is borderline at European levels of urbanization. No, it's fine. It's fine. I got a lot on my plate right now. I don't need to engage. I'm dead serious. I know. That's why it's funny. I'm sorry. I can't. It's okay. Hold on. Average miles per day driven by American. That's like a really broad... The average American driver covers approximately 37 miles per day. Average miles per day driven by European. And this doesn't even factor in the trucking network. Approximately 18 to 20 miles per day. So that's like a 50% drop, or like Americans drive 50% more. And that's just privately. Yeah, okay. The sources I'm saying around half, like Europeans on average drive about half the distance as Americans. What about trucking? Total trucking miles in United States per year. Really broad statistic, but, you know. Trucks in the United States travel over 300 billion miles annually. Okay, let's check Europe and EU. Ton kilometers. No. I just want miles. I need like comparisons here. In 2021, trucks in the EU logged roughly 34 billion kilometers in deadhead or empty travel, so about 20 billion miles, making up 20% of the total distance traveled, or another 80% had some kind of freight on it, right? Not freight, but cargo on it. So times 5, that'd be about 100 billion miles. So America has about 3 times, or roughly 3 times the total amount of trucking miles as the EU, even though the EU has a population of about 100 million more. Yeah, we use a lot of gas over here. If it wasn't for New Jersey, it'd be 400 billion miles. Okay, let's not pile on the one Jerseyite too much, okay? Jersey, like Atlas, holding up American oil prices. So yeah, like if you factor in population per person, our trucks probably run about 4 times as many miles, and our people about 50% more personally. So yeah, we just use a lot more gas in general, which is not good. Total gasoline consumption in United States. For gasoline consumption, about 9 million barrels per day. And in the EU, per day, 10 million barrels of oil per day. No. I want gasoline. Specifically gasoline. Total barrels of gasoline consumption in EU per day. 1.5 to 2 million barrels of motor gasoline per day. Damn. Okay, so comparing like statistics, that's 9 million for America, and then for the EU with 100 million more people, about 1/5 as much, 1.5 to 2 million barrels of motor gasoline.